Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, who shows death slaves, peasants, vassals, jihadis, terrorists. Terrorists? I'm a useful idiot, and today I would like to talk about Al Qaeda, and particularly Al Qaeda as useful idiots. And as it turns out that they've become perhaps some of the most useful idiots of the 21st century. Because, well, first of all, let's look at how Al Qaeda was created. And we can actually give credit to the United States and the CIA and our military for creating Al Qaeda, because Al Qaeda came out of the Mujahideen, which were the radicalized Islamist militants that we trained and who flocked to Afghanistan to fight against the Soviet occupation back in the 80s. So the Soviet Union, of course, was in there for 10 years and had their own foreign policy debacle before they left Afghanistan. So after the Soviets left Afghanistan, the Mujahideen essentially was two elements. One are the homegrown nationalists who have fought occupiers for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and that is the Taliban. And then the other half are the radicalized militant jihadi Islamists who go to where they are needed. In that case, it was to join their Islamic brothers in fighting the foreign occupiers in Afghanistan. And of course, we bankrolled that, we encouraged it, and we even had members of Al Qaeda and the Taliban in the White House at the time. And Reagan himself called them freedom fighters, and they were revered around the world as freedom fighters and heroes. So now we have the Taliban fighting the U.S. in Afghanistan, and they're no longer considered heroes and freedom fighters for some reason. But, you know, it's kind of hard to say who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. Taliban do not have ambitions outside of Afghanistan. They are merely fighting foreign occupiers. So to lump them in with Al Qaeda is not really fair. So I do, of course, take issue with the fact that Taliban are killing American soldiers. But on the other hand, they are defending their country against occupiers, and they will continue to do so until the last American soldiers out of Afghanistan. So that being said, okay, we've made it clear that the Taliban and the Al Qaeda are two different things. And to take it another step further, there are no Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. So now, supposedly, we have Al Qaeda in Yemen, and we have Al Qaeda in Pakistan. So I guess I should clarify right now, too, that Al Qaeda and what's called Al Qaeda is not a vast evil network of an organization called Al Qaeda that is coordinated and has a great communication system and coordinates all their activities. It just is not true. What we have is ragtag militants, peasants, scattered across the third world who are tackling their own governments. And I think a lot of them claim affiliation with Al Qaeda because it raises their notoriety. They become more famous, and therefore they have more clout. You know, and even terrorist groups crave that sort of thing. And then the other thing, of course, is that a lot of these groups probably have nothing to do with Al Qaeda. The media and our government and the military get together and say it's Al Qaeda, so it keeps continuing to create this public perception that there's this vast network of Al Qaeda across the globe, and that's why we have to have our current foreign policy. So, but I'm suggesting that I really feel kind of sorry for Al Qaeda, because they're used as tools and as puppets and as useful idiots by the U.S. in various capacities. So, of course, we use them as a proxy army to fight the Soviets in the 80s, because we couldn't have possibly confronted the Soviets ourselves. So they were useful idiots in Afghanistan during the 80s. And then 9/11 happens, and even though all the people on the planes were Saudi Arabians, we go into Afghanistan, and once again, Al Qaeda becomes a boogeyman and a useful idiot, because through claiming Al Qaeda did this, and they never claimed responsibility for that act. claiming Al Qaeda did it makes them the ultimate useful idiots, because then they became the boogeyman so that we could create the Patriot Act, create the police and surveillance state in the United States, and pursue our current foreign policy, which is a decade long in wars all over the globe, and particularly the Middle East. And then the confirmation for me was seeing how America used Al Qaeda as proxies in Libya. So they were the boots on the ground while special forces directed and led them, and they had massive NATO support. But here we're using Al Qaeda again as useful idiots to perpetrate our foreign policy in Libya. And those same elements were used in Tunisia and in Egypt. And we now see them again being used as useful idiots. We have a war that the U.S. is currently in Yemen, and we're using Al Qaeda as our justification for that. So once again, Al Qaeda are useful idiots because they're the boogeyman in Yemen that will require U.S. troops on the ground, which are there now. And then we also have Syria, of course, which we're using the Al Qaeda as useful idiots in Syria to instigate insurrection and also to perpetrate a lot of the violence that is getting blamed on the Syrian government. Let me make it clear, I have no love for the Syrian government, but it is a legitimate government, and they are having an insurrection, and they have Al Qaeda elements in their country creating difficulties for them. And this makes sense because another thing people need to understand about Al Qaeda, whatever it may be, is that they have no love for the United States, and they have no love for Britain. They have no love for the West. But they also have no love for Arabic monarchies and despotic Islamist governments in the Middle East. Al Qaeda certainly is not going to go after them until they become a target for the United States, and now Al Qaeda is going to go after them. So, kind of an interesting, complex relationship. I'll let you decide for yourself. I'm just presenting the information, but I would suggest that Al Qaeda is not a global network. Al Qaeda is not organized. Al Qaeda is not the umbrella for all these disparate bands across the globe. Al Qaeda is the name given to cover an umbrella, create an umbrella title for this phenomenon. And this name, Al Qaeda, was created by U.S. intelligence and CIA. In fact, many believe Osama bin Laden himself is a CIA operative named Tim Osman. And it is documented that, of course, when bin Laden was fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan in the 80s, he was bankrolled by the CIA. So anyway, very, very complex, and I just want to point out that maybe instead of thinking of Al Qaeda as this giant evil network of super dangerous jihadi madmen, that we think of them more as useful idiots and recognize that they're being used as a tool by our government, the military, to justify both our domestic and foreign policies, which are perpetual preemptive war and a surveillance police state. So if you're happy with those developments and you think we need those to defend against Al Qaeda, I would say take a second look. We've had the Patriot Act and the creation of this surveillance police state and this perpetual war overseas for 10 years now, and there hasn't been any real Al Qaeda attacks. We've had a couple of knuckleheads try and get over here. We've had all these so-called sleeper cells in the United States that have nothing to do with Al Qaeda. Almost every case has been entrapment of some disgruntled 20-somethings that like to talk tough and like getting money from the FBI. So anyway, Al Qaeda, useful idiots. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too. And don't be Al Qaeda for that matter either.